Well, hello everyone. We're back again with another great live broadcast. My name is James Harmer. I'm the Planning and Innovation Strategy Leader here at Cambridge Design Partnership. And I've got a huge privilege this afternoon to share with you, which is a conversation that I'm going to have with Ken Lashley of Marvel to talk about how we can bring back the fun, talk about creativity and all the exciting things that he's going to share with us. I've also got someone else that I should mention who's part of our conversation, and that's Chris at Live Illustration. What a daunting task for Chris to be having to record the
I'm afraid workshops are the only thing we cannot record
with illustrations. So Ken, we're gonna see how this rolls. I think the way that we should start though, Ken, is just giving you the chance to tell us who is Ken Lashley.
Oh God.
I want to know about you. I want to know how you got into the industry.
Sure.
I want to know how you've become this incredible creative coach.
I guess I was one of those kids, I was one of those kids that would always was always drawing and always doing some crazy things. My mom was an educator, teacher, and she nurtured that. So she would always buy me like art supplies and whatever I pretty much, I guess it was an easy way to entertain a kid at that time, right? Here's a sheet of paper, here's some art supplies, and here's some other stuff. And I just absorbed it all. So she bought me a lot of comic books when I was a kid. Not a lot of them. I don't think she read a lot of them. That she just handed them to me. She was, "Oh, this looks cool. You might be interested in this." And the first comic she gave me that I remember was a Black Panther book, and it was pretty amazing. But he fought the KKK in it, and I don't remember. I don't think she read it before she handed it to me, but but it was pretty amazing. But I didn't understand, the context, whatever. But I remember the artwork was Billy Graham was the artist on that, and it was an amazing thing. So it was pretty awesome how my mom nurtured that, and it gave me sort of like the base of me becoming a creative person, and never got in the way of me wanting to be a creative person. Even when I was in high school and I had opportunities to go do other things, and she was always, if I said I wanted art supplies or something cool, she always was there to support that. And I think that sometimes when there's that crucial point in your life, you need someone to sort of maybe not even help you, but just not get in your way and let you sort of find where you're going to be. So I think the biggest crucial reason why I'm an artist today is because my mom didn't really get in my way and let me become who I was going to become.
That's a great advice to all the GIF parents out there. God knows I need some help right now. I got 3 teenagers, Ken. What do I do?
You gotta let them be themselves. Even though I got 2 teenagers as well, and it's tough. Like, you gotta let them be themselves. I mean, and I always, my daughter is sort of like a person who likes to do art and craft and that kind of stuff, but she doesn't want my help. No. Like, she wants to be her own person, which is tough, because I say, hey, I got a lot of experience. I've done a lot of cool stuff. But she's like, I'm going to do my thing. And I think that's great. I think it's about really how giving boundaries and sort of like letting her be who she's going to be. I'm a very specific, and also it's kind of tough living with somebody who, I'm very, very fortunate with my art career, and I've done some pretty crazy things. So it wouldn't be maybe not as inspiring as I thought it would be. Maybe it's more of intimidating. You know what I mean? So she just, and I think that's interesting. At first I thought, well, come on now, I'm down the hall. Let's, now it's sort of like, let me be and I think I get it. I totally get it.
What are some of the craziest things that you think, I got to tell my kids about this. This will really inspire them. Some days I come back from work wanting to talk about some of the stuff that I've done to my kids, thinking they'll be like, oh, wow, you've worked on that project. Not interested.
Yeah, not interested. I mean, I tell you one of my favorite stories about about life and giving perspective. Was we're doing some work for Lucasfilm and did a lot of work with them and Hasbro and packaging art for Star Wars and, some other stuff behind me. And I was at Disney. I was at Disney, and we went through the Star Wars ride, and we're leaving through the Star Wars ride, and we're at the pro shop. So and all my artwork is on different products in there, and it's really crazy. Like, my artwork's on this thing. I'd say it about 15 different things that had my artwork on it.
Brilliant.
And I'm like, so look at this, and I picked up one thing and I showed it to my oldest, and she may have been maybe 11 at the time. And I showed it to her. I said, look at this. You remember that when I drew that? And people were and she looked at me. She looked at the box, looked at me, and she goes, can we go to the Toy Story ride now? And I was just like there wasn't a moment of like, Dad, that's awesome. There wasn't a moment of oh, that's amazing, or that's so good for you, Dad. She was like, yeah, I've seen that stuff before, man. Like that's your stuff. I mean, whatever, man. Can we go to Toy Story? And it was just one of those moments where I went, yeah, that's right. Perspective, right? Like, like
grounding you.
It's exciting for other people who are not my kids, I guess. For my kids, it's like, oh yeah, he does that stuff. It's down the hall, and if I want to go in there and look around the stuff, there it is, right? But it is bizarre sometimes because I think they should be excited, but it's what your dad does for a living. It can't be that exciting, right? Regardless of what it is, right? So it was one of those things. That was one of those moments where I go, oh, okay.
That's a shared experience. That is
that was perspective. I mean, you give me a little dose of reality. Like, yeah, you may think it's exciting, and I think it's kind of cool, Dad. But I mean, right now I want to go to Toy Story.
Humbling. So when you take that role as being the father, of being the coach to work, how do you do that in a different way in terms of all these budding artists and the people that must be super creative at Marvel? They're obviously looking up to you, Ken, to kind of show them the way. How do you do that? What do you do to
it's funny. Every once in a while, something will come up, and I'll just go, "That's really wild." Like a guy would do an interview, and he'll say, "Oh, my favorite artist is Ken Lashley," and I'll be like, "Well, it's just so bizarre because for me, I'm just doing my thing." You know what I mean? And I always do things that I would want to see, if that makes any sense. So I'm always trying to push myself to try and do something I haven't done before, and always pushing myself, past my boundaries. Like boundaries are very interesting. Creative boundaries are interesting because really what happens is, why an artist certain styles, there's certain things that they always do, and that's how you can pick up their style. Like they always do a certain thing. And I get this a lot where people say, "Oh, I didn't know you did that." And that's a great compliment, right? Because it's like it's not what they know me for, right? Or they think they know. I draw comic books, but I'm not a comic artist, if that makes sense. It's like I do a lot of different types of art. So I work for Hasbro and Lucasfilm, and design toys and doing some movie design, all these different things that encompass my art career. One aspect of that is comic books, right? So when you see my comic book work, I try to there's holes in everyone's work, right? Like you don't do a certain shot a certain way, so you kind of skip it. I'm trying to knock out all the holes in my work so that I can do any shot anytime I feel like it, and that'll make my storytelling better, right? So the biggest thing, if you can't draw horses well, then draw horses all the time until it's not an issue. Like always attack the things that you don't do well. That's always a problem. We always stay away from the things we don't do well.
It's very true.
I always say, no, I don't. If I can't draw kids, babies, there's a hole in my work. So I have to, figure out that hole in my work and try and get, patch up all the holes I can and make sure that there's not a restriction. I want to make sure that they work well. Like, if I don't do inking well, become a better inker. If you don't do coloring well, try to be, I'm not saying you're going to be phenomenal at those things. Just try to be better at those things. At least attack them.
That's really interesting in this kind of modern day context, where one of the things that we've certainly been thinking about and exploring with some of our clients is the way in which this next generation of consumers, if you will, are kind of phygital. They're physical and digital combined. They're living a life that's in that kind of digital space. Mm-hmm. So what you've just talked about in terms of being able to move with the times and innovate, how is that reflecting in your industry at the moment in terms of entertainment and storytelling?
Well, it's pretty amazing because there used to be a time where, the only the big companies had all the tools. Now if you have a computer, like the computer that I have here is the same computer they have over at Marvel. It used to be like, like the things you have at your house couldn't possibly be as good as what they have there, and it's level the playing field. So what's really come about is, what's your creative process? What are you creating? What are you creating with the same tools everybody else has? And I think, different, like Photoshop and Adobe products, like I work with Adobe, and their products are amazing. And it's no longer, the barrier of entry is no longer thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and thousands and thousands of dollars on hardware. It's kind of like, hey, if you have X amount of dollars, $2,000, you can get in and start playing around with these products. Having membership services where you can actually, rent these things, for a few dollars a month. You can actually get Photoshop, as opposed to when I was started, Photoshop was $2,500, and if you didn't, you know, I mean, you had to buy it because you couldn't use it otherwise. So I mean, there was a world of people. It's like you had to have $5,000, you know, to start, you know, just even to be creative. Now you don't need that. So I think the world has changed so much. You know, Fresco, you know, for Adobe, the drawing software, amazing software. You know, Autodesk has some cool things. I mean, everyone has their own programs. Even when you buy an iPad Pro, it comes with sketching software. You can play with it right off the bat, and creative apps that just level the playing field. You know, you could go to anyone's Instagram and see their work. I mean, I'm older, so those things were not new. They were all new technologies, and I bought a Cintiq. I have a Cintiq, and I don't use it as much as I should because I'm still traditional, right? Yeah. So I like to use it, but I do use it for design work when I'm designing things and I'm working on some stuff for Hasbro that's behind the scenes. I use it all. I do it all digital. So I can map out layers and, you know, continue the design process without having to start from scratch. Like you just overlay it, another skin.
Amazing.
So, I mean, it's very easy to do multiple designs on one armature, one really cool gesture. So you can do that with paper. Like it's just, you know, got to trace it in the light box. You know, I mean, those things. But the world has changed.
Yes.
And the technology has really sort of made it easier. Now it's, what do you do with that, right? Even with me, I'm sitting here, I have a laptop and I've got a desktop and I've got a Cintiq and I've got a, you know, huge printer, and I go step, but all those things are just tools. It comes down to just what can you do, right? Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that. That's pretty sick. I like that.
We've been interrupted by Spidey all of a sudden.
I think how funny is that I'm actually drawing a Spiderman thing right now. I'm not even going to tell you what it is, but I'm doing a cover right now as we speak. It was right beside me on my desk, actually. And I'm using that character. Oh, it's little Miles.
How freaky.
I'm not going to say anymore, but it's right here. And my deadline is in a couple of days. So do
you know what? Cool. I wanted to interrupt actually and just ask you about how you manage deadlines. I mean, for all of us at GIF, we're all managing deadlines of different kinds, and it's a really diverse group. One of the things I've been particularly excited about over the last few days is just how many different people there are in this world of innovation, and we're all doing different things. But we're all managing these difficult deadlines. You talked to me in the past about being an economic pragmatist. Like for an artist, sometimes if they got the chance to kind of spend a month on like the most beautiful comic cover, but obviously they would. But your deadlines are every few hours, every few days.
Yeah. It's called being creative in a time crunch, right? Like, you know, you don't like, I don't like, how creative can you be within the confines of what you're doing, right? So that's the thing, right? So I love when people say, oh, when they ask me how long it took me, is also one of those times where I try to be respectful of that question because I want them to see it. But if I say 6 hours, they're like, oh my God, I could never do that. I said, well, it took me a lot of years to be able to do a cover in 6 hours, right? So you have to look at it from another perspective. It's like they have their deadlines as a company, and they'll ask me and say, Ken, can you, we're running behind on this cover, or we need some approvals from another department because we're using this character over here, but the deadline is still the same. So it took 4 days longer to get the approvals to use this character. This is the right characterization for this character. That's okay. That's cool. Go. And it's like a Wednesday, and the cover has to be in print on Friday, not finished Friday, in print Friday. So it's Wednesday night. You're looking at the time. Okay, I can do it tonight. You finish the cover. It's got to get to the colorist that night. They got to do it, and then they got to get it back to the printer on Friday. So, and that's the game, right? So imagine if you have a little bit of artist block that Wednesday night, and you know that it has to get to the colorist. That's an issue, right? So you have to sort of be I'm going to put it to you in straight up form. Not every cover is finished; it's abandoned. So what you do is you do enough of it that you get your point across, and then you just got to move on, right? Yeah. So, and you can't do this every once in a while. You get a chance to really flex your muscles and do what you got to do, and you can always tell those covers. I did a Thor cover just a little while ago, and you could tell I had a little bit more time because people were like, "Wow, that's amazing," you know. And it's sort of like one of those things where people laugh. But one of the things I think is really hilarious when people say things like, "Oh, the things you've been posting lately have been really good," and it's like, what before that they weren't that good? Like, what do you say, right? Like, it's just that moment of what are you saying? But it's always this conflict. You're always hustling, right? You're always trying to do it. That's why I do 7 covers in a month. How is that possible? Well, I do one every 2 days, every 3 days, and they're always different companies. I'm doing a Batman cover right now. I'm also doing a Spiderman cover for Marvel. And I'm also doing covers for another series, which is Spider-Gwen. I'm doing covers for that too. And I'm doing covers for Null. And I'm doing, there's different things, right? So each one of them is separate and a different mindset, but they're all storylines the same.
So Ken, with that in mind, how do you, when you're juggling all those different things, obviously you've got a massive passion, a massive talent, and a massive passion for what it is you're doing.
Talent, but I'll take that. But I don't know about that, but I'll take it.
But what I'm wondering is, does the amount of stress and pressure of all those deadlines coming at once and all those things that you've got to manage and handle, we've talked a lot recently about mental health and trying to make our workplace scenarios kind of work for us as well as work for our clients and everything else we've got to do. How do you manage all of that?
Some days better than others, but overall, I just think that it's just I don't stress it. I mean, because it's really, in the end, it's comic books. It's not life or death. You know what I mean? The decisions I make today are not going to be, it's stressful for the companies and getting stuff out and all those kinds of things. Yeah. I mean, I'm not curing the common cold here. It's not, I'm not opening heart surgery here. It's comic books, and whatever decision I make is kind of the right decision. That's another thing too. Nobody knows the other decision I was going to make. Nobody knows, but so whatever decision you make is the decision you make. So, there are times where I've done things and I've gone, I wish I'd made a different choice, but no one else knows that but me. So, they all think every choice I make is brilliant. No, it's just it's getting done, right? I do a lot of things markers straight too. I do a straight to marker. So I'll do a quick layout, and then I'll go right to it, right? So, and then inking right away, it speeds up the process, but it makes editors crazy because they'll see a rough, like a very, very, very loose rough, and then they'll go, I don't know what I'm seeing, and I go, 2 hours later, it's halfway done, and they go, how is that? How are you doing that? And it's like, I'm a professional, right? Kind of like that's what I do. That's what I do, right? So. And it's like I remember an editor telling me one time we had a deadline crunch, and they didn't give me the script in time, and they said, this book has to get done in 10 days. It's impossible. And I was like, no, it's fine. Just send me the script and we'll get it done. And I go, how can you do a book in 9 days? And I go, don't put your restrictions on me. Like that's whatever, right? So the first day I did that night. Next 2 days later, I had 4 pages done, like 4 or 5 pages done, right? So in 2 days, ink done to them. And the editor calls me and is like, I cannot believe, that's unbelievable. And I was like, dude, I'm a professional. This is what I do, right? So, but he was so shocked that could be done and the quality of it, right? But the decisions aren't any different when you're going fast or going slow. It's just a level of finish, right? It's just, but with colorists and the things with the digital coloring and all those things, I mean, will the fan really know? Probably a little bit, but not. You can't hold a 6-week job and a 10-day job beside each other and say, "Wow, this is 6 times better." It's not. It's just a matter of finish, right? Yeah. So, and colorists have help too. They have people who do flats for them. With everyone, there's a process, and there's like 8 or 9 people involved, right? So
you've talked about that to me before, that the collaboration, and the way in which collaboration has moved on, evolved, it's changed. The way in which people have brought different sort of digital expertise into the creative process. Your role in kind of being the linchpin and bringing all this together to kind of make sure that people are on point with the idea, but allowing people to contribute to your fundamental idea and make it better. Tell us a little bit about how you embrace that collaboration culture, because you fostered that in your workplace.
Well, I do. I have a colorist that I use for a lot of my work, and he does, Juan Fernandez, and he does some amazing things, right? And we did Adobe talk together. But we also have done a lot of work together. Hasbro package art. He did this package art, and I did the whole line, and he did the line with me. And then we do other stuff together, covers and stuff like that. And pretty much everything I do, he does. He does, but not all the time. Sometimes we're running out of time. We just don't have time for him to do everything, right? Because but he's a person who knows my work. But also, I don't want to work with any writer that wouldn't allow me to have my own voice within this project. So if I have a writer who says, this is what I want, and just follow the instructions, I'd be like, well, I'm not the artist for you, because, like I don't tell writers how to write. Don't tell me how to draw. I mean, it's just, we all have our strengths here, right? And I always, one of my favorite lines. I was at a meeting once, and there was a whole bunch of artists. Writers talking, and they're all talking, and I'm the only person. I'm the artist on the book, so they're talking amongst themselves, and I'm listening, and I'm adding my 2 cents, and then they started telling me what they thought the book should look like, and then I kind of paused, and they're like, "Oh, Ken, you're awfully quiet," and I go, "Well, I'm the only one with the art degree in this whole thing, and I'm the only, and you guys are talking about art, so I don't know why you guys talk." And they all burst out laughing, and after that, they stopped talking about art. They said, "Okay, well, let Ken do his thing," right? And I said, "Okay, cool." Like there's no point of having an artist in a group if you're not going to let an artist be an artist. Like I'm not taking layouts from a writer. I just think that's okay. Then you can draw it, right? And then they go, "No, I can't draw." I said, "Well, then don't send me layouts," right? So
I know that there's so many people that are listening to this that are just like, I wish I could do that.
What do you mean? But I get it. I get what they're saying, but at the same time, I just was like, no. I mean, like why I'm not a pair of hands. That's another thing too. Don't be just a pair of hands, right? So, and that's what sometimes companies want you to be a pair of hands. Just just draw this the way we've done it in the past, and you go, well, you could hire anybody to do this. Why bother calling me? Like, if you're calling me because of what I've done in the past, then you're calling me because of my creative vision, and you have to be strong about it and be able to say, yeah, well, if you're not going to let me be creative, then I just not do it. Right. And that's really it's tough, but I'm at that point where if I don't want to do it, I just don't do it. You know what I mean? I just, because I'm not going to do it well anyway, because I'm not into it. So, nothing's greater than you have, we want you to do a Batman thing. Do what you think is cool. You're like, oh, that's sick. As opposed to saying, this is what we want you to draw this exactly like this. Like, they'd be like, oh, just a pair of hands. Right. And then,
this brings up a really interesting aspect where I thought you had amazing intuition with regards to not just kind of the way in which you perceive the world of your comics and superheroes, but the way in which you perceive the world of innovation and brand. And so, I've worked for the last kind of 20 years on developing visual identity work with brands and thinking about packaging strategy for brands. But what you said, and I want you to talk to the audience a little bit about this, was the 80-20 rule for innovation. Yeah. So when you're thinking about a character and a dynamic, there are certain attributes that you want to keep, and there are certain things that you can do that you can play with. Tell us how that works, because I think that could work up really well for some of the people here thinking about their brand space.
Well, it is. There's, at every brand, there's certain things you cannot do because it deviates so far from the structure of your own brand.
Yeah.
And it's 80-20 rule. I was always thinking 80-20 rule. 80% has to be sort of recognizable, and 20% can be innovative. And as long as you keep that 80%, that 20% could be anything. So that's why every time I'm designing something, if I'm doing a Snake Eyes costume or if I'm designing, something else, I give the 80% sort of what they want, and the 20% do something wild. Every once in a while, I'll get a chance to say, do whatever you want to do, which is, I did this thing called it's like a Transformers. It's called Trans Tech. It became this crazy design element, weird stuff. And it was 20% was recognizable and 80% was insane. And that became sort of like the grassroots of what eventually moved into what the Transformers movies turned into. But it was this whole weird design stuff. So just things that you would not recognize as Transformers, weird looking shapes and stuff. And then people are like, oh, that's so cool. It's not Transformers, but it's wild. And then after that, it became Transformers because somebody else took it and brought it back a little bit, and then it became what it became. But if you think of all your designs, even when I'm designing shirts for myself or brand or doing my own thing, because I have a logo on my own thing, and Lead Kill is my brand name. There are certain things I can get away with because it's part of who I am, but certain things that have gone too far. So you sort of have to, So when you're putting a product out there, like say I do mystery boxes or something.
Yeah.
Certain things that I can do that people say, oh yeah, that's a Ken Lashley product. And other times they go, oh, that's not a Ken Lashley product, wow, that's amazing. But though I recognize this part of it. Oh yeah, that can. So you want to be able to keep that in mind as you design things forward and keep your brand fresh, which is weird because people, what they always try to say to you is, oh, I'm trying to be innovative and I'm trying to be creative, but you have loyalty, right? So you like, there's a certain look for Spider-Man. Like you could make a suit black, but it's still the same motif, still the same eyes have to be sort of the same, the logo kind of in the same spot, but you can play with it, but it's 80-20. Right. So as long as you keep that 80%, regardless of how it is,
yeah,
and you give that 20%, make it crazy.
Yeah.
You still love. Oh, I think. Oh, like okay, what Venom, Black Spider-Man, huge, right? And then oh, I give him a mouth, so that 20% the mouth, but the logo is the same. The eyes are a little bit different, but you kind of get it. You know, he's in that same universe as Spider-Man.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That makes so much sense, and I think there's probably a lot of golden rules there that have been written in complicated books about brand. You've just boiled down to the last minute or so conversation, which is I think is really helpful.
Can I tell you something real quick about golden rules? There are no such things as golden rules, and then that's the problem we always have. Oh, it's done in the 60s. Let's keep it this. No. You do your thing. Make it take some chances. I always do this. I always do 5 designs that they kind of want to do, and I do 2 designs that I really think are cool. And then 9 times out of 10 they take those 2 designs. Like, so I give them what they want, and then I give them something that's cool, right? So, and then like, oh, that's so wicked. And I don't know how many times I've designed things, and all the designs end up being toys, or all 5 designs end up being covers. Because even now they say, oh yeah, cover number 1 for this project is number A, is letter A. I want that one. But the next issue, could you use C? And the next issue, B, right? Like they take all of it, just like, oh, that's so cool, because they don't want to throw anything away.
They don't want to lose it.
No,
we've been talking about all sorts of different things, and I'm really excited to see how Chris at Live Illustration's been doing. Chris, I want to give the floor to you for a minute and let you talk us through the journey. Can we see what you've done?
Love it.
Look at that.
Hi. Love your work, Ken. Hey, have you ever heard of Wally Wood?
Yes. Yeah.
I love Wally Wood's 22 panels that always work. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
That's a staple go-to for me. But, So anyway.
Tell us about some of the kind of key takeouts on your illustration there, Chris. So we're looking at it now. What are some of the things that have inspired you about the conversation? Tell us.
I was just trying to get onto the I'm not going to take artistic advice from a writer, because that's a pain that all illustrators share. That sort of, when do you step in to say, oh, wait a minute, I'm the person who does the drawing around here,
right away,
as quickly as possible, it would seem. That's definitely. And I'm a big fan of Procreate, so this is Procreate used on a iPad, so that's my main tool of choice. And I've dabbled in Fresco, but I'm stuck with Procreate.
Fun. I was a beta tester for that. It was a lot of fun. In the first few iterations of it were where all the bugs were, but it's amazing what you can do with that thing. And the watercolor brush is insane.
Yeah. I mean, this is like smashed out in 30 minutes. So if you spend longer than 30 minutes on a drawing like this, you can definitely raise the quality.
I'm Chris. I'm super impressed with what you've got here, because it's the thinking and it's then being able to put it into something that looks fantastic, and you've done a brilliant job. Ken, we've got literally seconds left, but what I'd love for you to be able to give to the people at GIF is just maybe one last insight really on creating a safe space for creativity in their teamwork, in their places of work, where they're trying to make innovation happen under really challenging circumstances right now. What would you tell people? No golden rules. We know there's no such thing, but is there something that you would use that would help us be more creative?
You know what? It's the voice that you listen to the most or the strongest should be the voice in your own head. And I think that's the biggest problem we as artists, we don't listen to ourselves. We do a lot of this, the client said this and the client said that. But if the client could do it, then the client wouldn't be coming to you, right? So they're coming to you for a reason. So don't be afraid to show what you have, right? Don't be afraid to say, no, I don't think that's a good idea. No, I mean, I don't think this is my idea. They're coming to you, they want that from you. And even if they don't think they know what they want, your job is to be, and it's also about you. It's your process, right? I remember when I did some artwork for a company and I did some design work for how they did toys, and I designed some do technical turns. And I remember later on, I posted one of my technical turns, and somebody from that company said, "Oh, you're giving away our intellectual property. You shouldn't be posting that." And I said, "No, that was my process. You guys have incorporated into making it yours." And they're like, "Oh, okay." You know, like that's what I'm trying to say. Like there's a moment, right, where you say, "Well, that's how I've done it. And now you guys are following my lead," right? So it's not the other way around. And I think that's powerful stuff as an artist, really, to know powerful. that your voice is just as strong as theirs, and in a lot of ways it's a lot stronger. But you should always believe in what you have in here and in here, right? And it's not always. It's always one of my biggest pet peeves, that we always allow other people to tell us what to do.
Ken,
you.
Thank you so much. I'm so upset that we're out of time, because I could have talked to you for the rest of the event. But awesome. please promise us that you'll come back and do another GIF for us.
Anytime. I will do it anytime. Maybe next time I'll come and I'll do some little bit live drawing. Maybe that'd be.
That'd
be amazing.
Yeah, we'd love that. Ken, thank you so much. And I know there's going to be lots of questions and comments and thoughts. So stay in touch on our social media, and we'll be talking to you again.
And thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it. A lot of fun.
Our pleasure. Bye, Ken.
Okay, see you later.